Hello, world, and welcome to Grounded and Guided. I'm your host, Lynette Waltham, and I'm so glad that you're choosing to be here with me in this moment. My conversation today is expanded beyond just me, and I'm welcoming a friend, Kevin Hughes. Say hi, Kevin.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing?
So, Kevin is a medium, and he would be the person that I first connected with when I started to dive into expanding my psychic abilities. You were kind of that first person that I reached out to and started to connect with. So I would just love for you to maybe share a little bit about yourself and what kind of led you to that space of becoming a medium.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when I was coming on your podcast. I was like, when did we meet? And I'm like, was it not you were taking a Akashic Records course?
Yes, I was.
I remember it vividly because I remember you coming it was with Lana, and you came on the screen, and I remember instantly there was that, ooh, I know this lady. We had never met before, but our souls connected in a different way than you can even put into words. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. There
Yeah,
was just like a knowing that we had kind of known each other before.
exactly. So to answer your question, everything started for me, and I have to always start when mom was pregnant with me. Mom was 8 months pregnant with me when my dad passed away. And so I never met my dad in the flesh. But I used to have these dreams. I remember them vividly when I was a child, and we'd be sitting on a marble staircase, and there'd be me and my dad, and there was a big glass building behind us. And we would have the coolest conversations. And I remember being probably about 6, maybe 7. And I remember telling my mom, I had a really great conversation with dad last night. And she got mad. And she was a very strict Catholic. So she told me that was evil. Don't ever talk about that again. So, of course, being 7 years old and being raised by a very strict Catholic lady, I didn't want to be evil. I didn't want to go to hell. So I never mentioned it again. It doesn't mean it did stop happening. I just never talked about it. And I always felt things, saw things, heard things other people didn't. But again, I did from that age, I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be the weirdo in the crowd as more weirdo than I normally am, as you know. Stop laughing. But it wasn't till many years later. Fast forward, I have 2 kids. We were in Christina Lake, British Columbia. And my wife at the time was reading a book by Sylvia Brown. And she stopped reading and she handed me the book. Now, to kind of go back, obviously, I have talked to my wife about my experiences over the time. She was very spiritual. And I told her about the marble staircase, the big glass building behind us. She handed me this paragraph, and Sylvia Brown was describing the other side. And she described exactly in detail where my dad and I would sit. And it blew me away. It was one of those moments where you go, okay, I know it's real. I knew it was real, but now I'm positive it was real. But I still didn't do anything with it. It was like, yeah, no, I know it's real. I know I have this thing, ability, I'll call it, if you want to call it that. But that is as far as it went. It wasn't till 2020. Fast forward again, I have now left my wife, met another lady, and she was spiritual, kind of starting to see the pattern here.
Mhm.
And she used to go to these events with Ken Lewicki, where he would connect people with their spirit guides. And I was like, nah, I'm not going, you go ahead. And she'd come home and she'd be super excited. She's like, you got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not my thing. I'm too busy. And then in 2020, she said, oh, Ken's doing a weekend course. We should take it. And I was like, no, we're busy. Oh, it was right in the middle of COVID. I had no more excuses. And I was like, okay, I'll take the course. My idea of taking the course was I wanted to shut all this down. I didn't want to experience this anymore. And I figured if I learned more about it, I could shut it down. And it was 10 minutes into that very first course where I went, oh, I'm not supposed to shut it down. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I did. I quickly took three of his courses, three of his courses, and then a 6 months mentoring with Ken. And after level 2, I think it was, I started at that time what I called Cavelli channeling. It's now called Kevin the Medium after my rebrand. And thousands, plurals of readings later, here I am and just loving it. Just wish I would have started it when I was a young man your age, because holy, what a difference it's made in my life.
Absolutely. It has made such like a fundamental change in my life, learning to be able to channel, connect with spirit guides, connect with past loved ones, just like my complete self transformation has just like blown up basically when I chose to connect spiritually and connect with the angels, dragons, beings, spirit guides, whoever is really wanting to serve my highest and greatest good and support me. So, what would you say is the most like fundamental or impactful thing that you've ever maybe channeled for yourself or for someone else?
Wow. If you would ask me that 2 weeks ago, I probably would have a different answer. But just recently, um, I have been called, I even know the word, to channels I don't even know, I can't even tell you what this is. I can tell you it's a blue energy and they're from the Syrian star system. And it's in process. I've just done it once. It's kind of blowing me away. It's almost to the point of like, you question yourself sometimes. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot. Whereas, am I making this stuff up? Like,
Mm.
what is going on inside my head? I was a normal, everyday guy. I use this term, I'm just a kid in a hoodie quite often. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to be channeling an ET, for a lack of a better term. And they're going to be giving me wisdom that I'm supposed to be passing on to others. And I'm like, who do I think I am that I can do this? And my guides constantly are telling me, because you're ready. And this isn't something that we should think is crazy or nuts. This should be just a normal process in our growth spiritually. So, yeah, before that, I would say I love channeling people's loved ones. And, after I took my courses, a lot of the people I took my courses with, they went out and did all kinds of other stuff, learned how to do Reiki, learned Akashic records. And my guides were like, no, you're to do nothing, but you're going to channel, and you're going to channel loved ones, and you're going to channel spirit guides. You're going to do mediumship. And I was like, that's not fair. Why do I not get to do everything cool like these people are? And they're like, because this is what we need from you right now. And that's what I've done. So I think one of my favorite things, obviously, is when I get to channel a dad, when I get to channel someone's dad who has crossed over and give them words of comfort that they probably otherwise wouldn't get. And I had a young lady just the other day where we gave her some words of comfort from her dad, who had just passed away 3 months previous. And you could literally see her facial expressions change from sadness to a happy sad. It's hard to explain, but when you can pass that kind of message on, I tell all my clients, I get just as much out of a session as you do, because it just fills my soul. I get this glow that you can't even put into words, this feeling that after a session, I'm just buzzing. It's like I just took 15 shots of straight caffeine, and to pick one would be really tough, except for this blue energy that I'm now going to be channeling.
And I can totally relate to you when you talk about how you have that buzzing feeling. And I feel when the person that I'm working with is so open to my skill set and what I have to offer, I leave that session very much just buzzing. And I feel like that is when you know you're on point. That is when you know where you're at. And I feel like you say that, oh, I like I just get to talk to people's loved ones or focus on mediumship, really. But your personal experiences make you you for those people and make you able to deliver the container and the way that you do your work because of your personal story and your connection to it. And so I feel like that's just that's so wonderful. And that's why I'm more focused on personal transformation and teaching people kind of moving towards safety and how to navigate life in the unexpected because that's my journey. And we can have so much power and so much ability and impact when we have walked the walk ourselves.
Yes, yes. It's funny. I come from a background of sales, and in when I was in my sales career, you covet your clients. You don't give your clients any more information than they need to buy that car. I was selling cars, and it's so different. It took a lot when I first started to get to the point now where I'm teaching people to connect to their own loved ones. And when I look at it as a business model, I'm like, how smart am I being when I'm teaching my clients to do what I do so they don't need to come to me? But that's my goal. You talk about my experiences. I've now, since I've been alive, I've lost three brothers and my mother. Two of those brothers and my mother was before I really took that step, that path, went on my path before I took the courses in 2020. And those passings really affected me. It hurt. There was a deep down pain that you just can't describe when you lose a loved one. Then I lost a brother in 2022. Doesn't mean I don't miss him or I didn't grieve him, but it was totally, completely a different feeling for me because I instantly was able to connect with him and know that he had crossed over and know that he was getting the healing he needed and know he was reunited with all his family on the other side. Knowing all that, how can I sit here as a human and be sad knowing that he's in a way better place? And when I say a way better place, like we can't even comprehend how much better it is when we go home. Remember, we just visit here, we live over there. So once you know what we know about where we go, grief takes on a different feeling. Yes, we still miss them. We still miss the physical contact. I still miss my brother Jack. I now have the ability, though, to connect with his soul, which is totally different than my brother Jack. Not the same personality, not the same person, because he's incarnated, let's say 50 times. Jack is but 1/50th of what makes up his soul. So it's very small. So yeah, it's just different.
And I feel like it is that experience with grief that makes you able to really help people navigate their grief in that communicating with their loved ones and being able to keep hearing about transmuting. So you're
Oh, yeah.
transmuting, you're helping them just like transmute just a level of grief for them.
Definitely. And it's funny. I mentioned before my ex-wife was very spiritual. My ex-girlfriend was very spiritual. Now my present girlfriend is even that much more spiritual. So you're seeing a pattern here. Uh,
Mhm.
my guides, the universe led me to where I am. The lady I'm with now is a grief coach. She lost her husband 5 years ago and lost. That's such a stupid saying. Her husband crossed over 5 years ago, and she went through a horrible time. Even though she was spiritual then, it took her down a path where she realized way more. She wrote a book about it, and she's now a grief coach. She also does channeling and Reiki healing or like energy healing. When when you use the word transmute, it's 100%. You can take that pain, that hurt, anger, pain, there's a lot of different feelings that go into grief, and you can let it go. People always say, no, you're going to live with that sadness for the rest of your life. No, you don't have to. You can move through it and carry on with life. She's a perfect example. I'm an example. Everybody has gone through some type of grief in their life. So it's part of being alive. It's part of this incarnation we call being human. It's one of the things that we agreed to when we put our hand up and said, yeah, I will volunteer to come to Earth at this craziest time in Earth's existence. That was one of the small, and I'll make it a point, that's a small point of our growth is going through grief.
Yes. And you talk about how we chose this time, we chose these journeys. And I always like help clients walk through kind of that concept when we have to just have acceptance for our life path and our soul's journey and have acceptance for others who are in our sphere and in our energy, maybe in our families, friends, communities, because our soul chose this path. Our soul chose this journey, and our soul chose this time and this moment to incarnate. And we choose the families that we are a part of. We choose that. And sometimes it can just be so releasing for people to be able to just kind of have that expectance, knowing that they have chosen this journey. And that was something that you, when we started working together, and I was leaning on you and asking you some questions when I started to develop my psychic abilities, there was a moment when I walked through some time where it was like, I'm going to call them my witchy wounds, those wounds of my past lives where I was doing the work that I'm doing today, but I was physically harmed because of that work. And I brought those blocks with me into this lifetime. But it was a conversation that I believe that we had where it was like, Lynette, like you chose this time and you chose this moment. And that was just so helpful to help me be able to move and grow into my soul's fullest expression at that moment, because I realized that I'm choosing this time now. And it's now in this time where we can transcend into a whole different space.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients who have gone through childhood trauma, especially in this lifetime, or even adult trauma. And I look at it a little differently than a lot of therapists would, because a lot of therapists don't know what we know. We plan our lives. Before we decide to incarnate, or when we do decide to incarnate, we plan our lives out. And we literally plan to go through some of the traumas that we go through. And so when you look at it at that point and at that perspective, you can look back and go, yeah, you know what? I went through some shitty, crappy times, but look where I've come to. I've come to a point now where I'm a functioning adult, a little bit, and we can thank our life for letting us go through that because it made us who we are. Some people get really angry when I say that, but I try to get them to realize if they didn't go through what they went through, they wouldn't be who they are.
Mm.
I have a very good friend. He's a recovering alcoholic, and he quite often would get mad at himself and beat himself up over his past. And I'm like, stop doing that, because if you hadn't gone through what you went through, you and I would never have met. And we would never be where we are today because of that. And when you think of that, you're like, wow, yeah, you know what? That's totally true. If I haven't gone through everything I went through, I wouldn't have become Kevin the Medium. There's no way. There's no way I would have met Lynette and had this bond that we have, and that has changed both of us for good or for bad, but made us who we are. I'm not saying rejoice that you went through what you went through, but be thankful you went through what you went through to make you who you are.
I absolutely agree because I recognize that I went through a burnout. I had a corporate job and a burnout. And Sometimes my husband like alludes to different things I could have done differently. And I always have to say, no, I am grateful for the journey that I like went through. I needed to go through that burnout because I would not be here where I am today to be able to articulate and help people the way that I do, to be able to go from a complete place like dysregulation, disalignment to alignment, nervous system regulation, safety, abundance. Like I wouldn't have navigated that journey if I wouldn't made some of those choices that I made. And like I do agree with you in that we've kind of set out these touch points in our journey along the way. But I also do really believe and understand just how much in creation we are with the world. And it really illuminated itself for me about maybe like 2 years ago, where I started to be able to see choices. And it just showed the choice would show itself in a web of energy. And then from that choice, there was all sorts of different choices that would illuminate. And then that choice, then you could choose, and then that choice would illuminate, and it just become like this web. And it was in those moments, like got goosebumps. It was in
Yeah.
those moments where it's just I realized how creative we can be in this world. Yeah.
Well, and now we can, when we do have clients come to us, we have that experiences. We have gone through those changes in life. We have that, we know what that feels like. We know what that pain or that happiness feels like. So we're able to be more empathetic towards our clients to be able to say, yeah, you know what? It's crappy. It was not fun when we went through it, but look at who you are now. And that's always my big thing is people get so caught up in the past or they get caught up in the future. And my big thing and my big message to most of my clients, not most, all my clients is stop that. Stop worrying about what you did in the past. It's in the past. You can't change it. And stop being so concerned about the future because again, you can't change it. All we have is the now. It is 10:56 as we're recording this on a Monday morning. There is no 10:57 yet. It doesn't exist. So all we have to do is concentrate on what we're doing in 10:56. And if we're doing our best and putting the best power and the best energy we have into 10:56, our future is going to be bright. It won't change our past. We can't. Our past is our past. Just leave it there. Concentrate on the now. And I find just too many people, oh, what is going to happen in the future? What's happening for me? And of course, people come, and you have it, I'm sure, is people come to us and they're like, oh, can you tell me if I'm going to get a promotion? I'm like, no, I can't tell you that. I can tell you if you do your best work at 10:56, that promotion is going to be more likely. That's all we have. I just think we need to really focus, especially in this society that we're in now with all the craziness. I mean, you don't have to be a news junkie to figure out what's happening in our world right now. All you got to do is pick up your cell phone or turn on your TV to know that we're in chaotic times. I tell my clients, yes, be aware of what's going on in the world, but pay attention to what's happening to you in the now, and your life's going to be that much better.
And I'm like such a believer about like the power of now, that being grounded in the present moment. That's kind of like the terminology that I use because it's in the present moment that you connect with yourself, your inner compass, your intuition, your soul, your flavor, your juiciness. And that is our power as humans, is us as the individual and how we choose to express that out
Yeah.
into the world. And it's in the present moment where you hear that. You don't hear it in the future. That's anxiety. You don't hear it in the past. That's depression, right? There's energies there. And yeah,
Yes.
we could put some disclaimers around that, but like as a big grandiose concept, when we are living in the future, that's where anxiety starts to come from. And energetically, they have very specific feelings There's a reason why anxiety is often connected with that spinning feeling, right? Because you
Yes.
are spinning and it just like, "Woo," and you want to just almost whirl. And there's a reason, like, by when I like say depression, that energy that I feel, it feels very dense. It feels very heavy and it feels very low. And in the now and in the present, that's where I want to live, and that's where I encourage other people to live too, because like we can hear ourselves and we can make the best decisions of how we want to like create the world we want to live in when we're in the present.
Oh, and you know what's funny? You go to any event, whether it be a sporting event, a concert, any kind of event that people go to, and nobody's in the present. Everybody's on their cell phone trying to get that perfect video, that perfect picture for they can post later. My advice, if you don't hear anything besides this is going to be worth it. Turn off your cell phones and just be present with who you're with. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're sitting in front of a Zoom and talking to Lynette. Forget everything that's happening tomorrow. Forget everything that happened yesterday. Just concentrate on being present now, because damn, life is so much better when we can live in the now. And I used to really be concerned about things that happened to me in the past. And I really was concerned with, because of what's happened to me in the past, what's going to happen to me in the future. I now realize it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The only thing that matters is now, 11 o'clock. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I was the person who did go back and forth. The future is the unknown. The future
Yeah.
is the uncontrolled. And so I got so wrapped up into how I could control that, how I could control those variables to make that somewhat known to me, to resist shame, blame, judgment. And then that night I would find myself stuck in the past, ruminating of what I could have done better, how I could have changed it, and just like degrading myself. And it's when I found the present moment and really, truly, consistently living in the present moment, that mind chatter just melted away. All of
Yes.
that, like the talk of, oh, like should, would, could, those conditionings can start to melt away a little bit because you get loud. Your soul, your heart, your intuition, your spirit guides, angels, dragons, supportive souls, they get louder.
Yes. It's funny. People always ask me, what's the most common thing a loved one will say when they come across? And it's, I often joke and I'm like, well, they never say, I wish I would have worked more. They never say, I wish
Yep.
I would have had more money in the bank. I've never once heard, oh, I wish I had a better car. You know what the constant thing that they always say is, I wish I would have been happier in the present. I
Mm.
wish I would have paid more attention to who I was with in the now, because that is the only thing that matters. How much money you have in the bank, how many friends you have, all that other stuff is peripheral. It's the little stuff. I know for a fact, if I talk to 1,000 souls in the next year, every single one of them, the only regret they would have of the life they just lived is they didn't spend more time with their loved ones. They didn't spend it in the now. So don't regret it. Do it. Live in the now, and man, life will look after itself. Do we have to plan for the future? Of course, we have to plan for the future. We live in this world. We need a bank account. We need a retirement fund. We need to make sure our kids are fed. So yes, you have to plan your meals. You have to do all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, don't focus on it. Too many people live in the future. They're not paying attention to what's happening right now. They're too worried about what's happening over here or what happened over here, instead of, okay, let's focus here, because that's all really that matters at this time. It's so important. And that's why we're repeating it as many times as we have in the last 5 minutes, is that's what the universe is trying to really tell us right now, is now is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that silence. You know what? That's what was needed right there, was that
Mhm.
not a word needs to be said, because we're in the now.
And I can just feel it in my heart space as you said that, right? And it's just like to give that pause and to allow yourself to just feel what that generated for you, or like just to be in it, just to be in
Yeah.
it.
When I do a channeling 101 course, and one of the first things I do is I get my clients to actually do a breathing exercise. And then I ask all their loved ones and their spirit guides all to step back and just allow them to sit in the peace. It's called quiet. It's something we're not used to. And I will literally let them sit there for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And to some of them, that feels like eternity because they're not used to doing that. But it's a real good way to be in the now, to be focused in how you're breathing, what this silly brain is thinking, because there's nothing else. You're doing the breathing exercise, everything's quiet. I get everybody muted, and it's a cool experience, probably cooler than connecting with a loved one on the other side. Yeah, it's cool to have a loved one come in. It's cool to connect with your spirit guides, but to be in that space where it's just quiet, I love it. I think it's one of the coolest things we can do.
Well, I believe you can't channel if you're not creating that quiet space, creating that
Oh,
center on yourself.
yes.
You can't channel. That is like channeling 101 what, like you said. Absolutely. Like I totally agree with you.
Yes. And it's funny because people like, what is channeling? What do you like? I understand like mediumship, you talk to dead people. Yeah. What do you do? I talk to dead people. But what is channeling? Well, channeling is a basis for all energy work. I uh, I think before anybody takes any other course, they should learn how to channel their spirit guides. If nothing else, channel your spirit guides and your soul. You're good. After that, it's good. Because once you learn to do that, then you know without a shadow of a doubt, everything you do going forward is for your highest and greatest good, or the highest and greatest good of your client. Because without that, without having that ability to channel, you don't know where that energy is coming from. And it's funny because I have talked to so many energy workers, especially I love talking to people who do tarot cards or angel cards, because they're putting out cards and they're giving messages to their client. And I'm like, wow, your channeling is really accurate. And they're like, oh, I don't channel. And I'm like, yes, you do. Of course you do. Where do you think you're getting the message? Oh, from the cards. And I'm like, no, that card is a piece of paper man-made. No, that's just a tool you're using to be able to put that together. It's your link.
And that was what you said to me. Like I had mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, like you were the first medium that I ever worked with. And I want to say channeler, but I was working with some other people who I was learning from and they were channeling. But you were the first one that I had a session with, and you channeled for me. And you told me that I channel. And up to that point in time, I would definitely say I didn't channel. But I remember when I first decided to do Reiki on others, because I did Reiki on myself for 2 years before I ever decided that I'm going to let someone else into my world of energetic healing. And when I did that first session on somebody else, I saw very vivid images, and I didn't know who it was, and I heard things from them, and like I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know what I was experiencing, but when I shared it with the friend, they were like, that is my great aunt. And that soul gave me very specifics that were attached to her. So very much it was very clear to the person I was communicating this information with who that was. And it blew my mind. And as I continued to do Reiki on other people, I was able to start to feel different energies. And I got a little freaked out because I did not know what I was communicating with, but they
Yeah.
felt different, right? They felt different. So I kind of kept still like navigating that, but navigating that with fear because I wasn't really sure who I was communicating with. But I always recognized that I would communicate with, okay, no, that feels okay. And I kind of used that as my as my buffer, but it did kind of freak me out a little bit in the fact that I was feeling these different energies. And because of your words of Lynette, you channel and needing to like expand my toolkit more, then it made me feel safer in my, and I say feel safer because
Yes.
my journey with safety and walking through this has been numerous dip blocks I've had to bump up against. But it was just that toolkit of knowing the different energy signatures that was just very empowering. And that is what channeling can just help us with too.
I go to a lot of different markets, as you know, and I hear other mediums talk, and I get irritated. I'll use that word. I get angry. I'll be blunt. I get angry when I hear them say things like, oh, I have a gift and I'm going to share this gift with you. As you know, I don't think I have a gift. I think all 9 billion, whatever it's at 8 point somewhat billion people on earth, I think every single soul living on earth has the ability to do what you and I do. It's a matter of tuning that frequency in. I use the analogy of you got to tune that radio station in. I'm old enough that I remember you would turn a dial and you get the static. You'd get the static, and then you'd hit that 1410 C1 out of Vancouver for people who, and you'd get the music, and it would be like, yay. That's what we do. We tune our satellite, so to speak, and then it becomes a trust factor that you're trusting the things you're getting is real. When I first started doing this, I didn't trust what I was getting was real, but I would do sessions with people like Lynette, and I'd say, well, I think it's your dad's here, and he says this, and they'd be like, how did you know this? And I'd be like, oh, I know this. It just came out. And it's obviously after thousands of readings, it becomes a lot easier to trust what you're getting is real because you know without a shadow of a doubt it's real. I have this dream one day, all 9 billion people living on earth is going to wake up one morning and go, you know what? I want to learn how to channel. What a beautiful place we would live in. Would it be perfect? Probably not, because somebody would try to take advantage of it because we still have this human brain. But it would be a lot better place than it is now. I can guarantee you. No, not everybody's going to learn to do what we do and start a business and then start a podcast or whatever. But even if you're just doing it for yourself, just for your everyday, think about it, if you have a roadmap and you didn't know where you were going and you looked at a map and it gave you a whole bunch of different opportunities or different choices to get to the point you were going to. Instead of going blindly, you could choose one of 5 different routes. Each route is going to get you to where you want to go. It's just going to be a different experience as you go through it. Wouldn't it be easier in life? That's what channeling does. Channeling doesn't give you the perfect life. I wish it did. I wish in 2020, when I started doing this, everything I did in the last 6 years was perfect. It hasn't been, because we have this stupid thing that they gave humans called free will. So we can choose whichever path we want to take. But it is a lot easier when I'm like, guys, come on in. Which way is better? Well, there's no best way, but here's 5 different choices. You make a choice from those 5. They're all good, but they're all going to give you different experiences. So choose. That's the way it works. That's literally the way it works.
And I love how you said it doesn't give you perfection because as
Yes.
being a recovering perfectionist, I definitely understand that, but it gives you personal power. It
Yes.
it it makes you realize in the power of who you are and what you are capable of, and that inner knowing of
Yeah.
that, and that you can trust. You can trust yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is really invaluable. And for me, like you talk about this, people talking about it being a gift. And I agree with you. I believe we all have the ability within us to channel. It's just wiring that we're not maybe choosing to access at this
Yeah.
point in time. I feel like lots more people right now are being called to access that and turn that on, tune into that station And I'm just excited for what the world can be like if we do choose to access that wiring. And I'm with you. I'm a tuner upper. I believe in like tuning up and tuning in. That is
Yeah.
to be really how it is and how I tap into my channel.
It's really neat to see. You mentioned how many people are being called or they're awakening. I hate that word. I try to stay away from it. That really bugs my girlfriend because her business is called Awakening Your Soul's Journey. So she hates it when I say I hate the word awakening. I think it's cliche. It's one of those in sayings, but it's really cool to see everybody being accepting that spirituality is now becoming the norm. 20 years ago, if you went to a spirit fair, they were the fringe of society. Like it was the real fringe of society. Nowadays, you go, it's kits and hoodies. And it was cool. We were in Blairmore, we being my girlfriend and I, Angela, we were in Blairmore a couple of weeks ago at a spirit fair. And there was every walk of life, male, female, young, old. It was such an amazing experience. We had this one experience where we did a reading for a mother and daughter. And half hour later, they come back with the husband slash dad. Because
Mhm.
they went home, told him what had just happened. He goes, "Oh, I want to experience this." And he came back and it was even a cooler reading with him. So it's such a cool feeling because it used to be this was a female dominated community. It really was. Now we're finding more and more males coming into their own. And is there still that perception that if a male comes in, they are taking advantage? Yes, unfortunately, that is a fact. I've experienced it myself, but I'm trying to really open up this community for more males because we need both. We need everybody coming into this community. It needs to be a big tent.
We need that healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy. And like
Yes.
I'm feminine, like I'm a female, identify as a female, but I have masculine and feminine energy, and we all do. But it's creating that healthy balance
Yeah.
and just recognizing like healthy masculine energy, healthy feminine energy, and people just being in alignment with
Well, and unfortunately, over the years, being spiritual was not a cool thing to do. Where
that. Yes.
now we're finding it is a cool thing to do, and you don't have to change. I get people looking at me all the time because I am a very spiritual person, but I also live in this world. So I will do a podcast like this, and then I'll meet a buddy and go for a beer. We'll watch a hockey game together. It's what I do. I live in this world, but I am spiritual. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And I find a lot of people, when they're first stepping down into this path of spirituality, do not get caught up in the, I must be spiritual 24/7. And no, that's cultish. I'm sorry, but that's cultish. You need to live in this world. We still have to work. We still need money to pay the bills. And we still need that balance in everything we do. It doesn't matter what we do. The universe needs to be balanced. Same with us when we're walking down this path. We need to be balanced.
And that's why I call this podcast Grounded and Guided, is to
Yes.
realize that I'm just an everyday person. Like I'm grounded in the everyday, but I live a very guided life, and how that has allowed me to transform and just be the best version of myself, and just being able to share that with others. This has been really, really great. I just love it when we come together. It just brings out an energy, I feel like, within both of us that sometimes we even surprise ourselves.
It's funny because there's probably a handful of people I've met on my journey that when we connect, it goes to a different level. Not that we go down a path of weirdness, but it's just a different level. And I always tell people, I'm not a believer in soulmates. I think that's a concept made up by man. If you can imagine, there's 9 billion of us on Earth, and there was only one person you were supposed to find.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
You probably don't find the proverbial needle in the haystack easier. But do we make contracts before we come here? As souls, do we get together and go, hey, Lynette, you're going to be on earth the same time I am. Let's connect at some point in this lifetime and see what happens. 100% yes. Unfortunately, a lot of people can get confused by that connection. A lot of people, when they first feel that connection, because of the way our brain works, we think that must be a romantic connection because it's a soulmate. I know a lot of times I've met males where I'm like, oh, why am I like literally attracted to this person? I'm not gay. Like, I don't understand how that can happen. Well, that's that soul connection. And I've learned over the last 6 years, like I say, probably a handful, maybe six people I can think of. You're one of them that when we connect, it just goes to a different level of connectiveness, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. Because I have girlfriends that we call ourselves soul sisters, because when we connect and we just bring out other levels within ourselves, that it just like, wow, this is amazing. Um, if we were going to talk about human design, there's probably some channels that we connect for each other. If you want to take it to more of like a practical, mechanical way of looking
Yeah,
at it. But yeah, and so I just love it when we have these opportunities. They're not very frequent. We're kind of like few and far between, but I'll get that nudge where it's just like, I need a little bit of Kevin's energy. I need a little bit of that interaction so that it can kind of help me. Sometimes it's like that good push to keep me going, right? Because you channel messages for me, I'll channel messages for you.
yeah.
And it's just kind of like that push to kind of like to keep going, to keep me on the path that my guides are screaming at me to keep going on, but my mind and my conditioning is telling me to halt or telling me to step back.
Well, and so many times the world happens, I call it, and the world knocks us off our path. That's the idea. That's part of being incarnated is we have a path to go down. Yeah, we have wind blowing us this way. We have wind blowing us this way. And sometimes it's going to knock you off your path. And that's okay. It's not a, it's don't go, oh, well, I'm off my path. I may as well go and become
Mhm.
a crack addict on East Hastings. No, you can always come back on your path. We are living proof of that, where we have gone off our path. I've gone through times where I haven't done readings for weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden I'll do readings 5 in a day. It's just the way it works. Now it's really cool because I gave up my full-time job and this is what I do for a living now. This is my full-time gig. So it's like, it's so empowering when I wake up in the morning and I look at my schedule and I know I have 3 really cool sessions that I get to look forward to instead of going, "Ugh, I got to go to the dealership and I really don't want to." It's such a difference in life. So walk down your path, whatever that path happens to be, walk down it and embrace it because the guides will never steer you wrong. Once you start connecting with your own guides, they will never, ever, it's an impossibility for them to say, oh, walk down this path and it's the wrong path. It might not feel like it's a good path for you, but it's the right path for you. Difference between being good and being right.
And I'm just really excited to see where our paths go. Like you said, you chose recently to step into this full time and quit your job. And that was right around the time when I chose to let go of the
Yes.
building that I was in and choose this focus on channeling and energetic healing and this side of my business and let go of fitness in a physical space. I'm really excited to see where our paths go and the journeys that we choose to walk on. So, for everybody who's listening, just kind of tell them if they want to connect with you, how are they going to do that?
Easiest way is on any of my social medias, go to Kevin the Medium, or you can go to my website, kevinthemedium.ca. All my information is there. I post most of my stuff because I'm 61. I post most of my stuff on Facebook because I don't understand all the other stuff. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram and all that. I get Facebook. I understand how it works. So if you really want to get me, go on Facebook. You can private message me on Facebook. I try to answer as quickly as I can, but be patient because I am old and sometimes I see it come up and I'll be like, oh, I got to get back to that person. And then I don't, right, Lynette?
Yeah.
And then I do eventually get back to them. Yeah, that's the easiest way.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for being here and sharing yourself, your energy, your story, your insights with everyone. And to
Uh,
the audience, thank you so much for choosing this moment to be here with Kevin and I. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.
Did this conversation spark curiosity within you? Like Kevin and I said, we believe that we all have the ability to connect to our intuition and channel. Maybe it's time to start exploring your intuition. Join me for my free masterclass, Understanding Your Intuitive Connection. This is where we'll start the conversation about developing your intuition, what it is, why we might want it, and how we can start. Then, if you want to take it beyond the masterclass, the following week I am offering the course, Learn How to Channel, the Basics. This is where we'll dive into the how-tos of channeling and start building your skill set. Doors are open now to sign up, and I'll put the information in the show notes. And you can always check out my website, LynetteWalthamEnergy.com, for all the information and details.